There is a business quietly making millions of dollars a year without owning a single gas station. No pumps, no convenience store, no real estate, just a truck, a tank, and an app. By 2026, this industry has already crossed $6 billion globally, and in the US, it's growing faster than almost anyone predicted. Today, we're breaking down exactly how a mobile fuel delivery business makes money, gallon by gallon, customer by customer. The pricing, the margins, the equipment costs, all of it. And stick around, because the very last number in this video, the one about government contracts, is the part almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most valuable opportunity in the entire model. Picture a founder who spent years in high-pressure logistics work, moving equipment and people on tight deadlines, no room for error. After leaving that world, the founder noticed something simple but annoying. Their partner was pregnant, exhausted, and dreaded one specific errand every single week, standing at a gas station. Instead of just offering to fill the tank himself, he asked a bigger question. What if nobody had to go to a gas station at all? Gas stations, as a business format, have barely changed in 100 years. The largest fuel retailers in the country still control only a small, single-digit share of the market, which means the industry is massively fragmented. Fragmented industries are exactly where small, scrappy operators can move in fast. So the founders built a landing page before they built a single truck. They ran a small batch of ads asking one question: would people actually pay to have fuel delivered to their driveway? The click-through rate and sign-ups on that page became the entire financial model for the business before a single drop of gas was ever delivered. That's the first lesson. Test demand before you spend $1 on equipment. Year 1, working this part-time around a full-time job, the business brought in roughly $77,000. Year 2, once the founder brought on drivers and expanded services, revenue jumped to around $385,000. Year 3, the business crossed 7 figures, becoming a fully independent, self-sustaining company. That's not a typical startup curve. That's a curve built on recurring revenue and word of mouth, not paid growth. The founders deliberately avoided big tech platforms and outside investors, choosing instead to grow through referrals and an aggressive, personality-driven social media presence. Engagement, even the controversial kind, became free marketing. Here's the mechanic behind the business. Wholesale fuel distributors deliver bulk fuel to the company at a lower rate than what a retail gas station pays. The company then delivers that fuel directly to a customer's vehicle, boat, or fleet and marks up the price for the convenience. In 2026, regular gas typically nets the business around 30 cents of margin per gallon. Premium fuel runs closer to 55 to 60 cents per gallon. Ethanol-free fuel, mostly used for boats, is the real prize, netting more than $1 per gallon, sometimes close to $2 for larger marine customers. On top of the fuel margin, there are 2 more revenue layers. A residential subscription, roughly $30 a month, covering 2 vehicle fill-ups, and a flat delivery fee for non-subscribers, around $12 for a vehicle on a trailer and closer to $24 for a boat sitting at a dock. 3 separate revenue streams stacked on top of a single tank of fuel. Not every customer is equally valuable, and this is where most people misjudge this business model. An average residential customer spends somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000 a year on fuel. That sounds decent until you compare it to the real moneymakers. Marine customers, boat owners on private docks, can generate upward of $150,000 a year in delivery revenue across a fleet of clients. And commercial fleet accounts are the real prize. A single large fleet contract can bring in over $30,000 a month on its own. Residential customers are almost treated like a marketing expense. The company can break even or even lose a little money on them, because those trucks driving through neighborhoods generate visibility and referrals. The actual profit engine is commercial and marine, where margins per gallon are highest and volume is consistent. A delivery truck alone runs between $45,000 and $56,000 new, usually financed rather than bought outright. On top of that, a fuel delivery skid, the tank and pump system that sits in the truck bed, costs around $24,000. Founders bootstrapping this business often find secondhand equipment from failed operators. Roughly 90% of startups fail, which means used commercial equipment is constantly hitting the resale market for a fraction of the price. Total startup capital for the real version of this business has historically landed under $100,000, often raised informally through friends and family rather than venture capital. The payback period, meaning the time it takes to earn back everything spent starting the business, was roughly 12 months in the case we studied. That is an extremely fast return of invested capital compared to most small businesses. So how big is this opportunity right now? The global mobile fuel delivery market is valued at approximately $6 billion in 2026, and multiple industry forecasts put it on track to more than double by the early 2030s. North America alone accounts for roughly 40 to 45% of that global market, driven by dense commercial fleet networks and a mature on-demand service culture. The United Kingdom, alongside Germany and France, leads adoption across Europe, which together holds close to a third of the global market. Industry research now shows that a majority of fuel consumers, well over half, say they prefer on-demand refueling over a traditional station visit purely for the time savings. On-demand, pay-per-delivery orders still make up the bulk of industry revenue in 2026, but subscription-based fuel delivery is the fastest-growing segment, which lines up exactly with the recurring revenue strategy this entire model is built on. In other words, the market caught up to the business model, not the other way around. Most people hear gas delivery and assume it's a low-status, unscalable business. That assumption is exactly why it's still wide open. A truly boring, overlooked industry, layered with basic technology and a subscription model, is one of the most repeatable playbooks in small business. It doesn't require inventing a new product. It requires taking a 100-year-old service and making it easier to buy. 4 practical moves stand out for anyone studying this model in 2026. First, price tiers. Underpriced residential and marine rates leave margin on the table that could fund faster growth. Second, go deeper into commercial accounts through referral relationships with well-connected local business owners, rather than paid advertising. Third, bundle additional services onto an existing delivery route, since acquiring the first sale from a customer is always the hardest part. And fourth, the most overlooked opportunity of all, government and municipal fuel contracts. Local, veteran-owned, family-run businesses are frequently favored candidates for these contracts, and public sector fuel contracts tend to be large and multi-year. This business didn't start with a warehouse full of trucks or a round of venture funding. It started with a landing page, a test ad, and a willingness to prove demand before spending a single dollar on equipment. That's the actual difference between people who start businesses and people who just talk about starting them. If breakdowns like this are useful to you, subscribe to Finance IQ, because we're doing this with a new industry every single week. And if you want to see how another boring business quietly built a 7-figure operation, the next video on screen is exactly that.